Yes, welcome everyone. Another video here from the Tokyo real estate man. One last little sip of my green tea. And recently, the comment section here on the channel has been really active. Really happy about it. Shout out to all you guys with your great commentary on the channel. Makes it a lot of fun to interact with it, and also really gets me thinking about lots of different things. Anyhow. Lots of different stuff. I got a video the other day. The deals man sent me a video about Chinese investors in basically I guess my head here is covering up, but basically here in this video, the deal man had sent me is that Chinese investors are basically coming in, particularly here from Shanghai, are coming into central Tokyo, and they're purchasing a lot of properties. And I have two anecdotal stories about that. Is that a Chinese family did buy my wife's aunt and uncle's home in Nakano. They bought the old home they had there, and then as well, I just recently did a showing in Akasaka, and for a Chinese buyer client of mine, and I asked the selling realtor who the selling party was, and it was a Chinese man from I believe Beijing, who was interested in buying a place in a tower. He owned 10 units already in Akasaka, and he was interested in selling these used units and consolidating all that money and buying a apartment in a tower mansion in central Tokyo. And yeah, this has got me thinking, and I did another search recently about how I could possibly sell my brand new unit that I have coming in, my Akasaka unit, to someone from China, and there's a bunch of websites where you can do that. So that was an interesting discussion that sort of came up here in the in not the chat, but I guess the chat in a way, but in terms of the comments and stuff like that. And I thought that we could make a little bit of a video about that, because I was sort of interested in about looking at who these, first of all, we know that these Chinese investors are coming into Tokyo. And one thing is that the market offers stability. Tokyo offers stability. And it also offers probably, at least when we look at the currency rates over the last 50 years, the Japanese yen is at a certain, it's going to be at a low right now. So it offers that. It also offers proximity to China for a lot of people, and Tokyo just offers a lot. Like we know that the Chinese investors were flocking into places like Vancouver 10 years ago, or even 15, or over the last 20 years. But Vancouver, the West Coast cities over this point in time have socially degraded. We know that there's drug problems and drug addicts all over the streets here of Vancouver and North American real estate markets. So like the people from China have a look at the Tokyo model, and there's no drugs on the streets, there's no homelessness on the streets, and it's just much more convenient. And there's also another element that I've often thought about, and it is that I think the Chinese investor who comes to Tokyo can really easily blend into the environment. But not only that, there's a lot of people who've lived like me, white people like me, or other people, brown people from all over the world who've lived in, I lived in Tokyo for 30 years. Like I know so many people from so many places, whether that be my friends in central Tokyo or my friends in the car business who come from Chiba. Recently I was in Tokamachi, and I'd run into an Indonesian lady who was working in a care home there in Tokamachi in the middle of Niigata. So like this is the idea that there's this homogeneous Japanese society that's just something that just doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, that's sort of the backdrop a little bit about what it's sort of come up into, and we know that the Tokyo real estate price is going up. So another way I'd like to point this video into is I sort of thought that the actual real estate or the actual inflation rate in Japan right now is between 7 or 8%, and I actually believe that this to be the truth. However, I came to ChatGPT here. My friend, as I say, Chatty, and I did a search on it, and I said, is the actual inflation rate in Japan 7 or 8% right now? And it said, as of March, I better put my googly eyes on here just to let you know, as of March 2025, Japan's headline inflation rate stands at 3.6%. Okay, I think that's a lie. Okay, with core inflation, including fresh food, excluding, that's the thing that people get every day. This is the stuff that people need to get every day, okay, at 3.2%. So yeah, interesting how this is not in the rating, but eggs, meat, anything fresh. So anything over fresh might be at 10%. And maybe that there is the difference. I don't know. These figures are significantly above Bank of Japan's BOJ 2% target, but will remain below the 7 or 8% range, according to Reuters. Okay, BOJ has acknowledged that recent inflation is primarily, driven by rising import and food costs and can adversely affect consumer spending. Sorry about that, everyone. Get off there, please. Get off there, please. Despite the challenge, anyhow, I'm going to say that they're saying that the rate is about between 3.6 and 3.2%, excluding, of course, fresh foods. I think it's a lie. I think it's actually running at about 7 or 8%, and I could be right, I could be wrong. Now, in my next question to ChatGPT, I tried to pivot a little bit, and I said, what is Central Tokyo's land inflation rate at present? And it said, as of 2025, land prices in Central Tokyo have experienced significant growth. Now, I've talked about it on this channel over the last year. I've talked about it here. I've talked about it on the old channel, that this inflation in land is going up above inflation. And it said here, the average land price increase across Tokyo's 23 wards is 11.8%. Now, we know that the 28 basically is this shape. It's oval. Tokyo's oval shape, just as I'm putting my hand right now over the 23 wards. It's the sort of, that would be, Tokyo's like this, but the 23 wards are more like that, right? But then the central 6 wards, okay, the central, and it's saying 5 here, okay, these central 5 wards, but it's actually about 6. I would say almost 7 wards or 8 wards are the really popular ones. Okay, now, they're witnessing average rise of 12%. Okay, that's smashed over here. Okay, notably, specific areas like Nakano-ku saw increases of 16.3%. So we know that the middle 4 or 5 wards are being squeezed for price, right? And that really pushed a lot of people into Nakano, because Nakano sits at the very edge of that. And a particular site in Shibuya's Sakuragaoka-cho, and I do own one apartment in Sakuragaoka-cho, experienced a remarkable 32.7% jump due to a major redevelopment projects. And the Sakuragaoka redevelopment happens right on the edge of Shibuya Station. Okay, now this upward trend is driven by factors including urban redevelopment, definitely, okay, limited housing supply, and increased demand from both domestic and international investors. The robust growth in land prices underscores Tokyo's position as a dynamic and attractive real estate market. Yeah, it's really neat. And the one thing that I've really sort of come about in the last few months, at least in Central Tokyo, and I really come to this, is I think the big difference between Tokyo and Osaka and even Nagoya, we looked at the Nagoya market the other day, is ultimately, I think it's really the government and the embassies. And those are really consolidated in Central Tokyo. And other things in Central Tokyo, we know that there's the palace, there's the second palace, there's the Shinjuku National Gardens, there's Yoyogi Park, and then there's Meiji Jingu. So basically you have 5 huge elements of parkland, and basically you could call it government controlled space, or you could go as far on the exaggeration side and say you could say that it's the Japanese Zaibatsu, or the financial trust control of the central Tokyo real estate through these sort of parks. And when things are parks like this and land trusts like this are taking out of the equation, you create a shortage. And not only that, you have the government is based in central Tokyo, and all its minions, if you want to call them minions, or you want to call that civil servants, or like the elements of the government are there, and as well all the international embassies are there, and they take all the supply out of the central like basically that restricts the supply that the private people can own. And that's the huge sort of restriction in supply. And then we have now this sort of element, especially the Chinese investors flocking here finally into Tokyo. And as I said to the deal man in our little private conversations that we do have, I think that my family's experience right now of just that one little house that my family, the old tire shop, my family or my wife's family had an old tire shop in Nakano, and they sold it and they bought a house in Shonan. Okay, that is just one little extrapolation, one little example, and that must be happening across central Tokyo. And is this going to stop? I don't think so, because I don't think that Chinese families, I don't think that they can have any way of leaving property to their heirs within the China proper, and they're always looking for elements that they can invest in that are outside of China. And I just think that the Tokyo market is just going to continue in play for decades out as China just continues to become more of a powerful economic force. So interesting. Anyway, that's just one element that I thought we could talk about. We have so many things there's so many things sort of in play here. We have the Chinese investors, we have the actual inflation of Japan, you have the actual inflation of the land prices. And I thought now that we could then move our discussion here a little bit toward the domestic market and have a look at the kind of loan. So if you're coming, we have this sort of backdrop of Tokyo and stuff like that, but what can you possibly do about this if you're coming from the domestic market? Now, a lot of the videos I cover about in this channel are all sort of based around looking price discovery, looking at markets and looking where the deals are and where the opportunities are. We use the word red pill, and we use the word red pill from that site at home, and then how we're trying to pick off the deals that are basically finding the deals in central Tokyo because of the environment of central Tokyo and how that environment is changing, and what are the factors that are sort of influencing, whether that be inflation or whether that be the sort of Chinese investors. Not only Chinese investors, international investors, even like me, international investor like me, who doesn't want to sell. Why? Because I have a Japanese family now. When I started to buy these properties, I was more of an international investor, and I would buy things like thinking that it would be a good deal. But now I have a Japanese kids and a Japanese family, and I operate more like a Japanese investor. And there's a lot of people like me in the Japanese. There's still, for as much as this Chinese thing is pushed, okay, and Chinese investors are coming into Tokyo, still the people that push the Japanese market around are ultimately the Japanese companies and the Japanese investors. Those are the ones that are most powerful in central Tokyo, and those are the ones that are connected mostly and closely to the Japanese financial institutions, which still, by and large, dominate Tokyo real estate. Okay, and I am the Tokyo real estate man, and for the most part this channel is still going to be, for as much as I can see that there's other deals and stuff like that all across Japan, we're always going to bring the discussion back to what's happening in Tokyo and how that sort of affects our decisions. Okay, anyway, these are sort of institutions here. This is something from talking about financial institutions where foreigners so if you're coming from the domestic market, where are the places that you can go for loans? Okay. Now, one of the banks that you can go for loans is this bank, Prestia, which is SMBC, which is Sumitomo, okay, bank. And I've been there and I've discussed with their, I think I went there about 5 years ago to discuss getting a loan. And in here, this is what you need to get a loan at Prestia Bank. You need no permanent residency status is needed. Now, I have the Japanese personal permanent residency. That's known as in Japanese as the Eijuken. You do not need a guarantor. Okay, a foreigner must be residing in Japan. Now, that's the key. You need what's known as Juminhyo, which is your proof of residency. That's probably the hardest thing to get a loan. Okay, and with their yearly income for the previous year being over 5 million yen. So what's that? 40,000 US dollars. Okay, English speaking assistance is available. Although, if you're gonna, for example, if you're gonna get a loan with me and Nakamura, the Tokyo real estate man, we're gonna help you through this process. Anyhow, I went here. I think I went here. Did I open this one? Yeah, I did. I came here to their page here of SMBC, and then we can look here. This is the one thing they had, and it's in English. It said preferential interest rate campaign for housing loan, and this is probably what's known in Japanese as Yugu. Okay, and what is this? May 2025 campaign interest rate, floating rate. Okay, 1 year renewal A plan. So obviously it's going to probably change every year. Okay, and 0.59% per annum. Okay, and I don't know the exact the base interest rate here. It says is 3.15%. That's, and then the discount on it is 2. I don't know the exact maybe that's just for the first year. You're going to get 0.59%, for example. I have a 35 flat right now that I've had now for about 10 years, and I have a 35 flat at 1.1%, for example. But if you go to the Japanese mega banks right now, I think you can get what's known as the Hendo rate, or the variable rate, which is basically the same as indicated here, at about 0.59%, and that's basically half of 1%. Okay, but that is the variable rate. Now, did the move that I made 10 years ago, was that a good move? Was it a good move for me to get a 35 flat rate at 1.1%? Now, tactically speaking, now I don't trust the banks. My personality is one that I never trust the financial institutions. So a 35-year contract with a low 1.1% rate made a lot of sense to me. However, in some ways I made a tactical mistake, because I could have easily had the variable rate from 10 years ago at 0.33%, which is 1/3 of 1%. And maybe since that time, it would have jumped up to 0.6%, or this rate right here. So in a way, I made a tactical mistake. And it will probably, because of the government loan, or the amount that the Japanese government has loaned out, because of the amount of loan that they own, the fact is that the Japanese interest rates can't really move up too much more than where they are right now. However, I don't trust the system, so I was glad to sign into the 35 sort of flat rate. That made a lot of sense to me. However, in some ways, I've made a tactical mistake. And for them to go from the 0.6% to the 1.1% right now would require probably around 5 rate hikes from its present rate. And the likelihood of that happening is fairly low, I think. Anyhow, that's just part of the discussion we're talking about here today. Anyhow, this is sort of one sort of option. Let's go back here to the other master page that we're looking at here. Here's another bank that recently actually got in trouble with their savings and loan problems. Okay, this is called Suruga Bank. Okay, as a general rule, permanent residency is required. So for their bank, as a general rule, so you need permanent residency to get a loan from them. Applicants without permanent residency can be consulted. So that just tells you that in some circumstances they're basically doing the same as the above bank. was referring to. Now, this is a bank that I've had a bank account with for about 30 years, and this is Shinsei Investment and Finance Bank, which is now known as SBI as well. And it says here, no permanent residency status is required. It is required that a foreign resident applicant resides in Japan, which means the same, which is you need residence, or you need what's known as the Jumin Hyo. So you need to prove that you have residence in Japan, okay? And you're going to need, there's two things you're going to need. You're going to have to prove that you have Japanese residency and that you have Japanese income. Now, there's two ways for you to get income. You can have a job. That's one way for income. Or another way you can have is you can have your own income. And you need then what's known as a kakutei shinkoku, or you need probably 2 years of Japanese tax returns. Okay, and then you can get a Shinsei Bank loan. Now let's just, I haven't actually, I should probably have opened it earlier, but we can open it here next door and just go look at the Shinsei Bank. Oh, it's going to be in Japanese, but here you go. This is Fudo-san, okay, Konyu, which is a purchase loan, okay, Fudo-san, which is real estate. But you got to learn some of these kanjis. Fudo-san, Konyu, Konyu is purchase loan, okay, there we go. And this is going to still be in Japanese, okay. But again, if you're going to deal, and I said to you earlier, SBI, that's the same, SBI, Shinsei Ginko, Fudo-san, Konyu loan annai. And you can see here, we can just go through it here. So Shinsei is not a really great bank. If you've been in Japan a longer time, there are better institutions with better rates. Okay, this is their variable, which is Hendo Kinri. And look at this, it's at 3%. If you go to Mizuho Bank, their Hendo rate is going to be at basically half of 1%. In a way, this is a ripoff. This is terrible. So it's going to be between basically 3% and 4.2% for their variable. Okay, now, oh, this is going to be with, like, this has got to do with some sort of Hoken over here. This is another one. This is their, and this is, there's two kind of loans. This is one with Hoken Nashi. And okay, what is this down here? There's some English and Chinese as well. So it just tells you right now, there's a lot of Chinese involved in this. So we know that the Chinese residents basically are living now in Japan. And by the way, my first experience with Chinese residents living in Japan was about 1996, and I'd been in Ikebukuro, and I ended up with my friend, and we ended up partying with these Chinese guys. It was my first sort of instance where I was sort of partying or like becoming familiar with this sort of huge Chinese population that was that is residing in Japan, and it's really big. So we're just gonna extrapolate from there. China and Japan have geographically have been close for time immemorial. So we know that there's a lot of connections between the two countries, and I'm starting to think, okay, I'm not starting to think, I've thought about this for a long time, that Japan has always positioned itself two ways. It's positioned itself through building factories in the United States, so it knows basically if you want to produce and sell in the United States, you need domestic factories. And all the car companies and stuff like that have had domestic manufacturing in the United States since the 1980s and the 1990s. And at the same time, Japan has wanted to sell to China. Okay, so it's had basically domestic manufacturing happening in China and Southeast Asia since the 1990s. So they've been doing both for a long time. Okay, and they're going to want to sell to both worlds. Okay, anyhow, and I think the American owner of this bank, it was Shinsei at one point in time. It's now a Japanese bank, but at one point there was an American owner, was the primary owner of Shinsei Bank, and I think it's basically been purchased again by SBI, which is a major Japanese internet corporation. and I think they're affiliated probably with SoftBank. Anyhow, what else does it say here? Right, this is another key part of here. Okay, loan contract is made in Japanese. Okay, it's going to be in Japanese. Okay, the eligible areas. This is really important. This is for Shinsei Bank. Look at what they're doing. I thought this was really important. The eligible areas are Tokyo, Kanagawa, Chiba, and Saitama, which are close to central Tokyo and suburbs. So it's even telling you, and I'm extrapolating from this one, I bet in far Kanagawa, in areas that are not in Yokohama, okay, in areas that are not in near Chiba and near Saitama, you probably can't get a loan. So if you're acting any different than Shinsei Bank in some ways, I think you're making a tactical mistake. And that's why the Tokyo market, like it or not, the prices are going up. Their prices are going up, but it's still the number one market in Japan. And it's going to be the number one stable market in Japan. And in some ways, if you're a cash flow investor, I think that there's opportunities all throughout Japan. I agree with you. Okay, but if you're looking to go 30x, 40x, 50x, okay, and have the big jumps, you've got to be investing in central Tokyo. It's just where the game is. It's where the redevelopment is happening. It's where the powerful banks are acting. It's just where the game is being played the most right now. Now, let's keep going down here. This is really interesting. I didn't know this. I'd known about this, but I didn't know this until I'd seen it written down here. The Bank of China, okay, let's just go through it here. As a general rule, services are only available for applicants with Chinese nationality who have resident status in Japan. So they now have financing options. So Chinese nationals to the Bank of China have financing options inside Japan right now. It used to be HSBC was there, but they're not there anymore. So Chinese nationals now who have the residence, so if you buy your first property and you have the residence and you have some Japanese income, now have a financing option inside Japan. So it's just, here's another one. Bank of Communications Limited, and I think this is a Japanese bank as well. Let's have a look at this. Services for a person with foreign nationality who has residence in Japan and a yearly income over 4 million Japanese and Chinese speaking services available. So another Chinese bank is here. We see there's two. There are basically two Chinese banks now that offer, and there's another one. I was just there. What's the bank called? I forget. What's this? There's a bank from Taiwan. I just went to see them in Shibuya. I'm forgetting that. What are they called? I'm just brain not bringing it up right now. But there's one other, and they had an affiliation here with Shinsei Bank as well. It's a small player. It's a Taiwanese bank, and the Taiwanese people, okay, have sort of a financing option for Japanese real estate as well. Then there must be a bunch of other players that I don't know about here. So anyway, it's just a discussion here today about a little bit of everything: inflation, the Chinese investors, the sort of financing stuff that's available both for international people who aren't Japanese, okay, or especially the Chinese community. However, if you're in Japan for 2 or 3 years and you have an income, you're going to be able to get this financing. Is there anything else that we could talk about here that I could think about? I don't know. There's so much to talk about. I think this is really the key, the one thing that I really took from it all. And maybe it's a slanted thing because I'm really well invested in these areas, but this is where the game is mostly being played right now. I'm not saying that the focus of the game is not going to change. Like, there's still other places and opportunities inside Japan, like Avon Job, like he talked about the other day. I talked about in the one video about that sort of penthouse in Nagoya for 20 million yen, about how I thought it was the best deal I'd seen in 10 years of in the last 10 years of Japanese real estate. And I really think it's a really good deal. And I talked about selling my Tokyo, my Shibuya penthouse, which is in Sakuragaoka-cho, and then purchasing that. And I think it was a really stupid move because what you want to do is I would want to buy that place in Nagoya, which is a sensible, cheap price, and I want to finance that at this sort of, I'd want to finance it here at this rate of 0.59, for example. I'd want to get a loan because I'll just get a Juminhyo, and I want to get a loan or a Hendo loan this is a variable loan for that, and then my payments on buying a new or that sort of penthouse in Nagoya would be around probably 40,000 yen a month, and I could finance that one and then keep my property, keep my penthouse in central Tokyo, which is going to continue to inflate at a higher rate and not sell it. So yeah, this comment section we have going right now really is on fire, and I'm really thankful for the people that follow the channel, and all your comments here is really great. And I won the comment the other day, and the comment was, you shouldn't sell your Tokyo penthouse in Shibuya, that's gold. It was a really good comment. And I just kept thinking about it. You want to use the financial system to get these sort of cheap sort of variable rates if you can. And in a way, the variable rate is the better move to make, because in order for it to get to that 35 flat sort of equivalent rate, it's going to be impossible then for the Japanese financial institutions to jump that up in some ways, and it's going to take 5 or 6 sort of rate hikes. Anyways, an interesting discussion about all kinds of things, particularly finance and real estate and central Tokyo. What the inflation rate is in Japan right now, I don't really know. I think it's at 7%. You want a place in Japan's, you can always come here to my Instagram, okay, Tokyo Real Estate Man.website. Failing that, you can come here to my website as well, Tokyo Real Estate Man.website. Right here, you see me and Nakamura. いつもこのチャンネル見てる皆様、ありがとうございます。今日の動画、もう楽しかった。今日の動画はどういうso many inflation and talking about rates and everything like that. Thank you for following this channel. Another video here from the Tokyo Real Estate Man. いつもありがとうございます。動画も終わりです。ありがとうございます。